Good day, and welcome to Global Trends. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining us because today we're putting together a comprehensive roundup of the biggest stories shaping our world right this minute. It's July 15th, 2026, and we're looking at a global landscape that is just incredibly complex. We're living in a time where a sudden security crisis in the Middle East can literally dictate the price of electricity for a family in Europe, and a massive AI tech boom in Asia is completely rewiring global supply chains. From geopolitics and energy markets to climate challenges, global finance, and even the FIFA World Cup, everything is deeply, undeniably interconnected today.
Okay, let's dive into this. Today's agenda covers 6 major themes: the Strait of Hormuz crisis, global energy market shocks, China's AI tech boom, Europe's deadly summer heatwave, the ongoing Ukraine war and reconstruction, and finally, the World Cup semifinals.
Section 1. Strait of Hormuz crisis, geopolitical escalation in the Middle East. Let's start right at the top with the absolute highest stakes global security issue unfolding right now. The Middle East is squarely back at the center of international attention, and to really understand where we are today, we have to look at how wildly fast this timeline has accelerated. Following the breakdown of nuclear negotiations in Geneva early this year, things escalated massively in February. We saw coordinated U.S. and Israeli strikes hit Iranian military and nuclear facilities, which resulted in the death of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Then, by April, the U.S. military, under President Trump's orders, enacted a strict naval blockade capturing multiple Iranian oil tankers. And while that brings us to July 2026, these reciprocal actions have snowballed into direct military engagements.
Which leads us to the breaking developments over just the last 24 hours. According to The Guardian, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps announced they've targeted command and control facilities belonging to the U.S. Fifth Fleet in Bahrain, and the response was immediate. President Trump issued a very stark warning, basically saying that Iranian power plants and bridges are going to be targeted next if a deal isn't reached. So we're watching this highly volatile cycle of reciprocal threats play out in real time, and governments and investors worldwide are just monitoring this minute by minute, hoping diplomacy can somehow step in.
Section 2. Global energy market shocks, the cost of blockades.
Now, you might be wondering, how does a distant geopolitical standoff actually affect me? Well, let's talk about the global economic fallout in your wallet. The most crucial takeaway here is this number, 90%. Because of these naval blockades, shipments flowing through the Strait of Hormuz have been restricted by more than 90%. To put that in perspective, that is roughly 10 million barrels of oil production per day completely cut off from the global market. The strait normally handles about 20% of the entire world's oil and liquefied natural gas. So, when you choke off a choke point like that, you create an immediate massive supply vacuum globally.
And here's exactly how that vacuum translates into hard costs. Brent crude oil prices spiked dramatically, jumping 10 to 13% in early trading, and eventually blowing right past $114 a barrel. That is wreaking absolute havoc on major importers over in Asia. Meanwhile, look at European natural gas prices. They surged from 30 euros per megawatt hour to peaking over 60 euros. They nearly doubled in a matter of days before finally settling around 48 euros. This level of volatility is a huge deal because it directly threatens to hike up household energy bills across Europe, proving just how reliant everyone still is on these global fuel markets.
Section 3. China's AI tech boom, a record trade surge.
So, while energy markets are facing these massive shocks, global supply chains in Asia are aggressively adapting. China just released some stronger than expected trade figures, and this brilliantly illustrates what's happening. Semiconductor exports absolutely exploded by 122%. That is the fastest growth we've seen in 13 years. Vehicle exports, which are heavily driven by EVs, shot up 70%, and computer parts rose 53%. Basically, the global rush to build out artificial intelligence infrastructure and the shift toward electric vehicles are creating this insatiable demand, and Chinese manufacturers are stepping right in to fill that void at a historic scale.
Let's pull back for a second and look at the broader economic milestone this represents. Overall, China's exports surged 27% year over year in June. They hit an all-time record total value of $412.39 billion. They also exported over 1 million vehicles in a single month for the very first time. Plus, their trade surplus with the European Union reached a record $32.9 billion. What all these figures tell us is that despite the global economic uncertainty and geopolitical tensions we just talked about, China's manufacturing sector remains a massive, resilient driver of global trade.
Section 4. Europe's deadly summer heatwave, 14,000 excess deaths.
Shifting gears from economics, we need to talk about the severe climate crisis currently gripping Europe. The summer of 2026 has brought a deadly, record-breaking heat wave. Preliminary estimates are showing more than 14,000 excess deaths across just 6 of the hardest-hit countries. Germany suffered the highest toll with 6,800 excess deaths. The UK and France both saw over 2,000 casualties, and France actually experienced a shocking 29% jump in mortality compared to the previous week alone. But take a look at the figure for Spain. They recorded 812 deaths. That's tragically high, of course, but it's significantly lower than its neighbors, even with temperatures blasting well over 40 degrees Celsius. Why? Because Spain has a roughly 40% household air conditioning adoption rate. That's double the European average. It really highlights how emergency preparedness and infrastructure directly dictate survival in our changing climate.
And you know, this climate emergency connects right back to our earlier discussion on the energy crisis, because the extreme heat isn't just a health hazard, it's fundamentally reshaping European power economics. Rivers are literally too warm right now to cool nuclear reactors, which forces output cuts. Businesses are scrambling to extend long-term power purchase agreements just to secure electricity. In Italy, power spot prices have been pushed near a staggering €500 per megawatt hour. So Europe is essentially fighting a two-front war on energy right now, one geopolitical and one environmental.
Section 5. Ukraine War and Reconstruction. The EUR 507 billion challenge.
This brings us to another monumental challenge on the European continent, the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. We are now in the 5th year since the 2022 full-scale invasion, and this has built up into an almost unimaginable financial hurdle. Total reconstruction needs are currently estimated at €507 billion over the next decade. But here's the really tough reality. Ukraine needs €40 to €45 billion annually just to keep basic state functions operational. We're talking paying pensions, healthcare, and defense. Meanwhile, the destruction is easily outpacing the rebuilding. Just to give you an idea, in 2025 alone, there were 1,195 documented attacks on the railway network. Because of this relentless environment, only about 4 to 4.5% of damaged infrastructure had actually been restored by mid-2025. The gap between what is needed and what can physically be built is just staggering.
And since a clean, immediate transition to peace isn't on the horizon, planners are having to operate under a completely new paradigm called managed insecurity. Basically, it's the reality that rebuilding and societal functioning have to proceed even while political and territorial conflicts remain completely unresolved. But this creates a profound dilemma. Ukraine's demographics have shifted massively. Millions of refugees haven't returned, so if planners spend billions rebuilding infrastructure that was scaled for a population size that simply no longer exists in that area, it becomes a stranded asset. It's essentially wasted public expenditure. Navigating this managed insecurity is without a doubt one of the most complex, long-term governance challenges of our time.
So we've covered military blockades, surging energy prices, deadly heat waves, and wartime reconstruction. I know it's a lot of heavy, serious news, but I want to pose a question to you. Amidst all of this global conflict and extreme challenge, what single event is managing to capture the attention and unite millions of people across the globe this very week?
Section 6. World Cup semifinals. Spain advances to the final.
Yes, away from the politics and the economics, we have the beautiful game. We are currently in the thrilling final stages of the FIFA World Cup 2026, and it's serving as this incredibly powerful, much-needed symbol of global connection. Just yesterday, on July 14th, Spain delivered an absolute masterclass, defeating France 2-0 in the semifinals. With brilliant goals from Mikel Oyarzabal and Pedro Porro, the Spanish squad has punched their ticket to the World Cup final for the first time since their historic victory back in 2010. It was just a moment of pure, unadulterated excitement, and honestly, it serves as a wonderful reminder that sports continue to offer us these vital moments of shared joy, completely removed from the stresses of international diplomacy.
And that brings us to the core takeaway from today's explainer. Just look at the breadth of what we've covered. A strike in Bahrain spikes gas prices in London. A heat wave in France changes energy trading in Italy. A rush for AI in Silicon Valley drives record-breaking exports in China. And amidst it all, a football match can still bring the whole world to a standstill. These stories demonstrate how closely connected today's world has truly become. When one thread is pulled, you really have to ask yourself, are you prepared for what unravels next? Thank you so much for watching Global Trends. If you found this update helpful, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss out coverage of world affairs. We'll see you in the next explainer. Stay informed, stay curious, and have a great day.